What's going on, y'all? This is Alexander, and you are plugged in to the Nerd Companion. This week, I wanted to drop another episode. There is a lot of hype going on with the WWE right now, if y'all don't know. So I'm going to release a solo ClashCast episode before the big WrestleMania press conference on Thursday, February 8th. A lot of drama. First off, I want to thank everyone that's been listening in. Shout out to all my homies, to my lame episodes. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to keep the content rolling. But without further ado, we're going to be talking about WWE. There has been some new developments following the events of Royal Rumble. I don't know if y'all know this, but Bayley, she won the Women's Royal Rumble. And she has had the opportunity to choose whoever she wants to challenge for WrestleMania. I know that there was a lot of speculation that she was going to go after Mommy Rhea Ripley from the Judgment Day. But it seems that Ripley's been beefing with Nia Jax. And she's been getting kind of a big push, Nia Jax, since I would say probably before the Royal Rumble. But where we were able to see a lot of her action there in the Royal Rumble. She was a complete monster. She was destroying everyone. And I think that's what they needed, at least to kind of push her forward. And I think it's going to give Rhea Ripley a good run for her money because they're both really strong individuals. And I think it'll be fun to watch. In regards to Bayley, she's the one that won the Royal Rumble. She was not my pick. I was taking a safe bet with the man Becky Lynch or Bianca Belair. But my boy Lewis called it. She was going to win. Bayley, I know there was a lot of speculation that she was going to choose Rhea Ripley, but I think it's about time for her to realize that Damage Control, the group that she's in, they're a bunch of backstabbers. And so they essentially got called out, and Bayley called out Io Sky, which I think makes a better narrative in my point of view, because they've been like low-key trashing her in front of her face, behind her back, and now she's probably just had enough, and she's going to challenge Io Sky for the championship at WrestleMania. So congrats, Bayley. I'll be looking forward to that. Another thing I wanted to talk about was Logan Paul. He retained his title. He won because he had a buddy throwing a pair of brass knucks inside the ring. There was an error, and somehow Kevin Owens ended up with it. And he gave Logan Paul the old brass punch to the jaw. And Logan was essentially KO'd. And Kevin Owens went to go pin him for the 1-2. And then the ref saw that the brass knuckles was around Kevin Owens's knuckles. So he got disqualified. But all wasn't all for nothing. After Kevin Owens lost, he pretty much threw Logan through the table, which was pretty interesting to watch and funny because Logan's just such a good heel. He's so hate worthy. So it's fun to see that. What I found interesting now is that after he won, Logan Paul on SmackDown has declared that he wants to participate and have more matches. He doesn't want to be the weekend warrior. He doesn't want to show up just to the pay-per-view events, the PLEs, to defend it. He wants to be on a weekly basis, which is something I want to see because I think Paul has a lot of talent. He's very athletic. We all know that he is a really good boxer. He's a tremendous athlete. Usually in the PLEs, he puts on a good show. And I think that him coming around every week, getting some matches, I think it's going to be good for his development, not only for story-wise, but for his talent and skill inside the ring as well. I'm excited to see that. His promos are absolutely awesome, dude. I don't think that there's anyone that can naturally trash somebody as good as he can in the WWE. The only person that gives him a run for his money, and I don't think he even comes close in regards to talking trash, is Christian Cage from AEW. Christian Cage, if y'all don't know anything about Christian Cage, he used to be in the WWE with Edge and Rated R Superstar. But he is in AEW, and if you can get a compilation of Christian Cage's trashing, like smack talking, he is an absolute beast. He makes me cringe, and I have a pretty dark sense of humor. That is not G-rated or PG-rated. Beware that if you watch that around anyone, be, observant with who you're around, because it's pretty offensive stuff on there. But he's really good. He brings the heat. He even makes me nervous. But yeah, I think Logan Paul is a really good promo spitter. Really entertaining to watch. And I cannot wait to see his development moving forward. The winner of the Men's Royal Rumble was Cody Rhodes, and it was ultimately between him and CM Punk, and Rhodes won. Rhodes, if y'all don't know, is a back-to-back Royal Rumble winner, which is a pretty big accomplishment. Only 3 others have done that. I can't think of the ones that have done it, but I know Stone Cold Steve Austin was one. He basically, by winning that, he gets to challenge whoever he wants to, any champion that he wants to, at a main event WrestleMania match. And it was presumed, basically, with the entire year leading up after his loss against Roman Reigns last year at WrestleMania, that this is what he was going to do, right? This was the story that he was supposed to finish. So he points to the WrestleMania sign to signify, like, all eyes on WrestleMania. All roads lead to WrestleMania. No pun intended, except it was intended. You are my boy, Cody. I love you, dog. I love you, dog. And so does my son, Ezra. That's why I love you, dog. He points to the WrestleMania sign, and then he looks directly into the skybox where Roman Reigns is sitting, and he points to him, insinuating that I'm coming for you, dog. Like, this time, the story will be finished, and you will be the last page that I close in this book. Okay? He essentially calls him out, and everyone is going crazy, right? Everyone's going crazy. So essentially, he's earned his right to compete with Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania for the WWE Universal Championship. During that match, I believe CM Punk was injured and he tore his tricep. It was Drew McIntyre that did it. It was probably an accident, but he was injured, and it was revealed the following Monday on Raw that he was no longer going to compete. Here's the kicker, though, is that the narrative was leaning that CM Punk was essentially going to main event night 1 of WrestleMania against Seth Rollins, and that was the narrative that they were going to chase. But since CM Punk got injured, that leaves Seth Rollins opponentless. So he doesn't have an opponent for WrestleMania. Keep in mind now that CM Punk is no longer going to be at WrestleMania, whether he's really injured or it's all just a story. The point is that at this point in the story, Seth Rollins does not have an opponent. Now, with everything going on with Vince McMahon and his allegations, they're trying to keep their distances with superstars that have close ties to Vince McMahon, and Brock Lesnar being one of them. Brock Lesnar was supposed to be in the Royal Rumble, but he was scrapped that day because of how close his relationships were with Vince McMahon, with all of these allegations surrounding Vince McMahon. TKO Holdings didn't want him to be involved with WWE. And even before WWE, that I would believe that day that Slim Jim was one of their big sponsors for the Royal Rumble, and they dropped their sponsorship. Like, they dropped the deal before the Royal Rumble, and it took them dropping Brock Lesnar to get Slim Jim to cooperate and then, promote Royal Rumble to go through with the sponsorship. So it just shows like what kind of weight that these allegations are holding on a financial standpoint. And so TKO is not playing. They're clearing house. So Brock Lesnar was one of the talents that they essentially let go. And you saw Braun Breaker enter the Royal Rumble in his place to participate in the PLE, which he completely dominated and put him right on the map. He's now signed with SmackDown. So good for you, Braun Breaker. Excited to see what you're going to do. So with Brock Lesnar out of the picture, he is somebody that they could always count on for a WrestleMania match. It was rumored that it was going to be Gunther that was going to have his dream match with Brock Lesnar, but that doesn't seem like that's happening. And even if they weren't going to book that match and Lesnar was still on the card and wasn't really involved with Vince McMahon, I could see him and Rollins having a match instead of CM Punk due to his injury. But those two individuals are out. So that leaves a big old empty space for Seth Rollins. So Monday Night Raw, the following Monday after the event, CM Punk shows up and he spits a hot babyface promo and puts him on the mat. But he also confesses that he has an injury and it's going to inhibit him from participating in WrestleMania, which has been his dream. He never got that on his first go around with WWE, and he wanted to accomplish that on his return to WWE. And McIntyre, I don't know who injured him for real, but they're saying that McIntyre was the one that did it, and they're playing off of this incident to cause some drama between the two. But Seth Rollins at this point doesn't have an opponent, and so what does Seth Rollins do? He tries to make the best out of the situation, whether that be the creative team or Seth Rollins himself, or it's all part of the narrative. So he goes and he offers a title shot to Cody Rhodes. And his argument is that the title that Rollins holds is the workhorse one, is the workhorse champion, is the fighter's champion, is the champion who is involved on week in and week out on the road. And he's like, this is the championship that your dad would be proud of. This is the one that you want. And he, at the same time, is like trashing Reigns, basically saying Reigns doesn't even show up week in and week out. He barely shows up to pay-per-view, PLE events. And then when he has those matches, he ends up cheating. And he's just slamming him, right? He's just basically saying that his title is fake. It's not even a real title. It's basically a political title. It means nothing because he's not a fighting champion like himself, Seth Rollins. This was probably one of the best promos that I've heard Rollins spit, and probably one of the better promos that I've heard in a while, because it really kind of spoke to Cody's emotions and kind of went beyond, I feel like, the curtain in regards to making people feel that, you know, this championship is important. It's what his dad would want. But in the end, Cody Rhodes doesn't really come to a decision and tell Seth that he'll think about it. 4 days go by, and it's now Friday Night SmackDown. Cody Rhodes shows up to SmackDown, and at the end of the show, of course, that's when you hear Roman Reigns come out. Roman Reigns comes out, and he spits a fire promo too. He calls out in like a swift, I would say 45-second promo, he completely demolishes Seth Rollins' championship, basically saying that the tournament that created to make that championship was all people that Roman Reigns fought. He essentially calls it the loser bracket championship, and then talks about how Seth Rollins is indeed correct. Roman Reigns doesn't show up to PLEs and PPVs. He works 10 times less than him and makes 10 times more, and essentially asks the crowd immediately, saying, what do y'all want? Y'all want the Rollins Bank or y'all want Tribal Chief Bank? And it's just like, he's so good at trashing people. And after demoralizing Seth Rollins and his championship, he then addresses Cody and says, you can either be the best number 2 or you can take a crack at number 1 again. And he has this smirk that is just dripping with arrogance. And it's so freaking awesome because he just makes us such a good villain. My wife despises his personality. But I mean, that's the point, right? The point of the heel is to get you to despise him. It's just, the story is only as good as the villain. And if you can hate the villain, then it's a good story. So Cody Rhodes comes out, and it's now Cody Rhodes' turn to address the tribal chief and let him know what he wants to do, because he's had his offer from Seth Rollins, and now he's coming up to respond to what Roman Reigns says. So his music pops, he comes out, and he essentially tells Roman Reigns, like, you cheated me, and I was the closest to any opponent you've had in years to having you. And he did have you if it wasn't for the interruption of his goons, the bloodline, which is true. But he didn't take the W, so he did lose, but he felt like he was cheated. And then he further goes into it saying that the title that Roman Reigns has was the very title that his father, Dusty Rhodes, that had in his hands in Madison Square Garden, New York, and it was taken away from him from a loophole rule for that match. So his dad didn't get to get his title, and so that's why he wants that title, because that's the title that Roman Reigns has. and he wants to finish his story. But what Rhodes doesn't clearly say, without saying what he's about to do, is that despite all this, he's had some counsel. Now, if you listen to Roman Reigns talk about anything in the past couple years, he calls his group his council, and he heeds counsel with his family. So counsel is a word that's used in his rhetoric when he is describing, formulating a plan of what he's going to do. So Cody Rhodes uses his terminology and says, I have had some counsel, and he knows you very well. And of course, at this point, the crowd knows exactly what's going to happen. Cue in The Rock's theme song. This is where things get interesting, because it has been rumored for several years that they've been wanting to do this match, The Rock versus Roman Reigns, for years. For years they've been talking about this. And so you hear The Rock come out, and it's not like this is a complete surprise, because he's had a couple entrances within the past couple months, and he's even made a comment about, when I leave here tonight, I want to go get something to eat. Should I sit at a booth? Should I sit at a bar? And then at that moment, he looks directly into the camera and says, or should I sit at the head of the table? Which is essentially what Roman Reigns has declared himself. He declares himself at the head of the table. So that was kind of like a quick jab right there at Roman Reigns a couple months ago. So out comes The Rock, and Cody's standing there in the ring, and he's waiting for The Rock to come in. And there's this moment where they give each other a hug, and The Rock is saying something in Cody's ear. And you can look at Cody's face, and he looks kind of upset, and he kind of puts on a smile. I'm not sure if he's like faking it, or if he's like kind of like he's really smiling, but he's kind of like upset. But he's leaving, and he doesn't seem satisfied. He doesn't seem happy. And then pans back to The Rock and Roman Reigns in this big hype moment, and they're doing this stare down at each other. And then it just cuts off. It's at this moment where the internet completely flips out. Not the whole internet, that'd be crazy. But the people that watch WWE were going crazy. They went absolutely nuts, okay? People are like, I can't believe The Rock is going to challenge Roman Reigns. Why would he sideline Cody Rhodes? Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble. This was his right. He needs to finish his story. Like, everyone is upset. And even I sat there when I watched this happen. I myself was kind of upset, because I had kind of been cheering for Cody this whole year, right? And typically I don't really like baby faces. They kind of get on my nerves a little bit, but my son Ezra has really been getting into wrestling, and he absolutely adores Cody Rhodes. And I feel like I've been feeding off of that energy, because it's like the hero that he watches, right? So I've kind of got suckered in and sucked into Cody Rhodes, because he's just such a stand-up guy. He's such a class act, and I just really, really like him. So I was just cheering for him, and then like I felt kind of betrayed, right? Because I was upset that The Rock showed up, and he was, going to have this shot at Roman. But then I thought about it, and I had to take a step back and realize that actually nothing was even said. The Rock didn't say he was going to wrestle Roman Reigns. We don't even know what they were thinking. We don't know anything. And essentially said that more details are going to come out on this press conference that's going to happen. I'm looking at my watch, tomorrow night, which by the time this is released, it'll be tonight. So there's really a lot of speculation on what's going to happen. And I really am analyzing the reaction to this, because it seems very dramatic. Like, there seems to be a lot of uproar and upset all over, wrestling social media. You know what I mean? Like, if you go on and hashtag WWE, like, you're going to find so many people upset that this is even happening. Just to solidify what I'm saying, that the Monday Night Raw that happened just this couple days ago, back Monday on the 5th, I believe, when Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes came back out, and Seth Rollins is kind of like pitching his like championship thing again, you hear in the crowd, Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks, Rocky sucks. Like I felt like we were going back to the Attitude Era when people used to hate The Rock. Quick side note, with all these allegations going on with Vince McMahon, they've pretty much forced this guy out of WWE. Like, everything. They've taken him off all the games. They're selling all of his, I think they've taken off all of his merch because they don't want anything to do with Vince McMahon. And so a couple weeks ago, I believe it was a couple weeks ago or maybe a week ago, they hire Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, to be a part of the executive, like, chair membership. Like, he's a part of like the big, like, administrative executive group that for WWE. And a part of his deal or incentives that he gets is that he has to perform X amount of times while he's working there as an executive there. And so people are speculating without knowing anything that he is just showing up to get a quick WrestleMania event and quick payday and trying to grab a quick incentive from his benefits that he's getting from his position. And so I think that's where a lot of people are getting upset that he's now trying to take over this match that Cody Rhodes was supposed to have that they had built up for a year. But again, we have to remind ourselves that Cody Rhodes and The Rock never said anything about what's going to happen with that match. Cody Rhodes said he might not get that title at WrestleMania, but there was nothing that was said that The Rock was going to fight Roman Reigns. We don't even know what's going to happen. We don't even know what was said off camera between The Rock and Roman Reigns. For all we know, The Rock could be going full heel and join Roman Reigns, and they could both just be tearing up everyone for the next couple months before WrestleMania. The possibilities are endless. And from a marketing standpoint, it's almost genius because people that grew up on the Attitude Era are going to probably tune in. Not everybody. There might be like 15, 20% of people might look back and be like, okay, I might watch this. And then you have the group of people who are so freaking upset about this. Like, I can't believe Rocky would do this. It's creating hype and anger. And at the end of the day, whether WWE gets good press or bad press, it doesn't matter. It's press. And they're going to lean into the hype. Like, they've had a lot more attention. People are reacting more to these videos and to the news now than they were before. Granted, it's all negative, but they're reacting more. And so I feel like the WWE knows what they're doing. They're utilizing The Rock in a way to get people more engaged at this WrestleMania. Again, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, this is all just speculation. Nothing was said. We're not going to know until they say something, which could potentially be at this press conference tomorrow night or tonight as you're listening. I'm excited to hear about it. We don't know what's going to happen. We could easily have a triple threat match. It could be Cody Rhodes versus The Rock versus Roman Reigns. We could have an event where The Rock basically turns heel and he's the new Vince McMahon. He's the new executive coming out walking like Vince McMahon's big old self with his arms flailing out with his oversized suit coming out saying, "You're fired." Stuff like that. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You could have a Rock versus Rhodes on night one of WrestleMania to be kind of like the check gate before he gets to wrestle Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. Everyone needs to calm down. I understand if you're emotionally involved, but if you're emotionally involved, that means that the story's good, man. The story's good. I remember when I thought Frodo died at the end of Lord of the Rings when Shelob stabbed him with her poison stinger. And I was like emotionally destroyed when that happened. I didn't want it to end that way. But it was like those things that pull at your heartstrings that make you more involved into the story. And people, I don't think, realize that. So keep that in mind when we're watching. Don't think that they're just making a huge mistake. I think they know exactly what they're doing. They're going to use this. And one thing that I know for sure they use as a tool that they didn't have during the Attitude Era. Like, if you think about the Attitude Era when they were pitching these ideas, the only way that they could gauge anything as far as momentum, whether it was good or bad, was maybe like the crowd at the arena that they were at, or maybe polls that they were taking. But the WWE with social media, that is the most important tool that they have. If you don't think that they're looking at that and looking at all the negative response, they're going to use that, man. That is the most important tool that they have now. And they're better at pulling at your strings because people are always rating up and down. Like, is it good? Is it bad? And they're going to lean into it. So if everyone's getting all this negative energy towards them, they're going to use that, man. They're going to use that, and they're going to use it to better the narrative. I'm excited for it. I hope The Rock goes freaking heel. I hope that he ends up being a bad guy. I hope he ends up trashing Cody and just beating him up. Like, I hope, I just hope he's a bad guy. And I hope that he, I just can't wait. I'm excited. I'm super excited for what all this is going to entail. I'm definitely going to be watching this press conference. I never thought I'd be watching a WWE press conference. But since this is all getting so hyped with The Rock coming back and quote unquote sidelining Cody Rhodes, who is the heir to taking on Roman Reigns for this WrestleMania, it's so dramatic, dude. It's such a soap opera. It's so good. It's just, this is what we watch it for. This is what we watch wrestling for, man. For the drama and the athleticism. It's exciting. So if you're mad about it, dude, just chill, man. Just watch the show. Trust the process. And always remember that if you can't hold the championship forever, you know what I mean? So even if The Rock gets it, and somebody else is going to get it. The Rock can't do it forever. He can try in a wheelchair at 90 years old, like, you can't take it from me. Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? You know what I mean? Trust the process. One last thought as a theory. Even if Cody Rhodes doesn't get his dream match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, I think it would be really cool that Cody Rhodes will get to take the championship that his dad never got at the very venue that his dad was cheated at, Madison Square Garden. How epic would that be? Quick history. Dustin Rhodes, whenever he won, quote unquote, won the championship for the 13 seconds, it was at Madison Square Garden. It was for the WWF championship, the biggest one. They gave it to him. He had this moment where he held it out standing on the turnbuckle, and the referee took it away from him because he won in a manner that wasn't really allowed in a championship match. Championship matches have certain rules, and one of the ways that he won, it was against the rules. And so they took the belt away from Dusty Rhodes and gave it back to the other person who was the championship at the time. And that happened at Madison Square Garden, which is where all this motivation comes from Cody Rhodes, right? So how poetic would it be that he doesn't get his championship match at WrestleMania? He becomes more babyface, right? People start to want him to win even more, right? They start to back him more because he was cheated. And then he gets to get this main event at Madison Square Garden where his daddy was wronged, and he wins it there. And he's able to stand on the very turnbuckle, holding up that title, looking up into the heavens, my bros, my gals and my bros, looking up, showing his dad the title. Bro, I would freaking cry. That's so poetic. That's all I have to say. I got it all out of my system. I'm going to post this before the conference. I'm super excited. Trust the process, guys. It's all going to be good. Either way, it's entertainment. If it's getting under your skin, they're doing it right.